breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host and good friend, Dr. Glenn Harrison.
Hey, Dr. Kolby. How are you doing?
Good, man.
You're looking quite comfortable over there. You're almost looking a little drowsy. How was your day?
I think that my day was fine, but I like what you're doing there. I like it. Like a gentle segue.
Were you having some comfort food this evening?
Hey, it's very possible, man. Some days you need it, you know. But
that warm, cozy feeling beside the fire where you just want to curl up and shut the brain off, because that's exactly what's happening.
Yep. And just enjoy my nice, gentle slip into my blood sugar crash.
That's exactly what we're talking about today.
So today we were talking about why are comfort foods so comforting, right? And this is something that when we were coming up with ideas, it's like, well, you know, it's kind of like a catchy title, but more it's like, why is it that certain foods are more addictive and we want to consume them more than others? So when we're going to talk that, we're going to talk the physiology of it. We're going to talk, the biochemistry of it. And we're going to give you some healthy alternatives that you can start to supplement in your day-to-day life that might improve your quality of life. So if this is your first time listening or watching and you get value out of the content, hit like and subscribe, turn on notifications so that you are very aware of when we crank out new content, which is coming out each and every Monday at 5:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Why are comfort foods so comforting, Dr. Glenn?
Well, lots, but the comfort isn't a good comfort. It's actually can be a deadly comfort if that's a thing, but it is today. These comfort foods are usually associated with really, really starchy, rich in foods that spike blood sugar, that increase your circulating blood sugar. And we've talked about blood sugar in the past with our diabetic podcast, but we wanted to make it a little more practical. But these foods spike our blood sugar, and that should be a good thing. But it plays so many roles. Our body almost wants to go into hibernation mode, or our brains do anyway. And I'll get you to talk about the brain component because this is your world. Oh, can't hear you. There you go.
Yeah. So when you have this extreme fluctuation in blood sugar, right, and it tastes good, so you get like that dopamine and serotonin dump, and it's like that gratification and that enjoyment out of it. So there actually can be pretty addictive, right? So you look at it, you get the blood sugar spike, you get a release of dopamine and serotonin, which is like, I feel good. That was super good. I should keep doing that. And then it crashes. And then you get an insulin response, right? And then it crashes. So when you pair that with the gratification, and then also some of these foods, especially ones that are containing things like high fructose corn syrup, they don't actually influence the area of your brain that is associated with what's called satiety, and that is like the feeling of fullness. So then you can actually overindulge with them and eat more of them, and then that further leads the release of serotonin and dopamine, and then also elevated blood sugar, and then followed by the crash.
Mm-hmm. So the spike and the crash, and then brain consequences of it, and then when our blood sugar, just like our blood sugar is like the stock market, it spikes and then it crashes. And then when it crashes and it's below the line of safety where our body's starting to go into hibernation mode, what do we crave? We don't crave protein. We don't crave a steak. We don't crave a salad. We crave more sweet foods or starchy foods or comfort foods, if you will, to get it back up to stability, because everything is kind of getting in a dormant mode. And this dormant mode isn't a very good thing. The problems, not only we become addicted to this, as you said, you get serotonin and dopamine spikes, and we go through these withdrawals when we don't have them. But the problems with these foods is when things start to shut down and when blood sugar spikes, we take that circulating blood sugar and we convert it into fat tissue. So these comfort foods don't only make us get tired, want to curl up on the couch, but tired, curled up on the couch, and also having to maybe loosen the belt up a little bit because we're gaining weight and we can't handle it. Maybe we even need a bigger couch as a result of this. So there's weight gain is one major consequence. Brain fog and cognitive impairment. Like I had some simple carbohydrates I told you about, some comfort food, if you will, at dinner, just a little bit, and I was yawning. I was telling you, every time I was taking a bite of it, I felt like someone was injecting me with some kind of the neurotoxin. I just kept shutting down a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But I went through a crash, and I was looking for something, but I was able to bounce back. So it happened. But at that point in time, yeah, there was some cognitive impairment when we started. So brain fog's a consequence. And if I was to do that all the time, I would probably have such unstable blood sugar. I would be the roller coaster of ups and downs of blood sugar and weight gain and metabolic problems, and naturally the addictions associated with it. So a lot to untie here, but I don't know if this is the case. And we didn't talk about this, Dr. Kolby, but do you think maybe that's where dessert culture came from?
Ooh, maybe. My wife is going to kill me for this, but my wife is like a big dessert lady.
She's the dessert lady.
She's
okay,
the
I'm going to
dessert
refer to her.
connoisseur.
She's going to listen to this. She's going to really be mad.
She is. She's going to be so mad. That's okay.
So, yeah. So maybe dessert is not taken during the meal. It's not before the meal. It's always after the meal. And it's usually after the largest meal of the day, the dinner. Was it? I wonder if it evolved as a result of, I just need
blood sugar crash.
A blood sugar crash from the simple carbohydrate or comfort food meal, and then you need that spike again. So if anybody's listening to this and feels like they need something sweet after their meal, they should look at their meal and what's contributing to it, or look at their sleep patterns, what's contributing to it, because it's not something we should need. If there is something in the blood that needs to be corrected. So what could someone do to avoid the comfort food?
Yeah, so when we look at comfort foods, like traditionally, it's those really starchy, carbohydrate-rich foods. So, for example, if you're like a big pasta person, right, you can do spaghetti squash. That's something we do a lot at our house. You can do like zucchini noodles. So my wife actually has a spiralizer that she takes zucchinis and like cuts them up into noodle-shaped stuff. We actually had zucchini noodles the other day with a paleo Alfredo sauce.
No way.
Yeah, it was super good. By Primal Kitchens, I think it was. Super good. You can do things with like chickpeas. You can, as far as like processed sugar, so substituting that, a lot of times when my wife is baking or something like that, she'll use maple syrup or honey, things that are a more natural sugar. Another big thing is like pairing raw fiber and protein with higher glycemic meals, because then that actually helps to buffer out some of the blood crashes, because your blood sugar doesn't swing down as low as quickly, because that protein is a little bit slower to metabolize and break down, and helps to stabilize your blood sugar a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you think of anything else?
No, I think you hit the pairing of a food with higher protein usually will dampen the blood sugar spike, and then therefore the crash. I think the replacements are huge. And I think if someone, how many times I know do you and I see people saying, my problem with my diet is I just have a sweet tooth, or I just need sugar, or I just crave sugar.
I'm addicted to carbs.
And there's probably a lot of truth to all of that. But if you can find strategies to balance your blood sugar, you won't, and it's stable, and you don't crash, you're not going to crave the sweets or the starch. It's very rewarding, and it's hard. It's not the easiest thing to do, but everybody does it. Everybody in my office does it. I always tell people, and it kind of sounds a little cocky, but that's the way I present it. And we're talking about foods, and I never tell them, I say, we got to stop consuming sugar. And then they always ask me, and I actually do that intentionally. And I know if anybody I've worked with is listening to this, they know they've been through this, and there's a little game, but they don't know it's a game. And I don't say anything about sugars. And then they say, "Oh, Dr. Harrison, well, you didn't say anything about sugars." And I said, "No, but we're going to make a little deal." And they're like, "Okay, I'll make a bet with you." It's like, "Okay." And I'll say, if we can get you to a point where you don't crave them, will you promise me you won't consume them? Would we have a deal? I said, "Of course. If I don't crave them, I can avoid them." And I always win.
Always. I'm 100% on that.
Yeah, I know. If you get it stable, If you get it stable, you don't have the crash, you don't get into that needing, because when we crash, we crave it because our brain is arguing with us. It's starving. And as you said, what is it? The brain consumes like 85 or some percent of the amount of glucose in our body.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's 85% of the daily glucose that you consume is consumed in your brain.
So when our blood sugar drops, our brain starts starving and we get hungry and hangry. We've talked about this in the diabetic podcast, and we need it. It's not I need it. I have to have it. And it could be a sugar or a starchier food or a comfort food. So if we can keep it stable, find the strategies to keep it stable. Some of the replacements you talked about, Dr. Kolby, that's a great starting point to balance blood sugar so you don't have these needs. So to summarize, if people think, when they think about comfort foods, they should think of some really nasty things. They should think about brain fog. They should think about exhaustion. They should think about weight gain. And we didn't even get into hormonal balances and all that other stuff. We talked about this in the diabetic podcast and the blood sugar. But they should think of all these terrible things, especially if they have severe sweet cravings after the food coma or the comfort food. Comfort food does not mean health food. It's kind of on the other side of that spectrum, on the other side of the aisle from it. So I know we had some other strategies on how to balance it. Those are the foods: eating frequently, manually fueling yourself to keep your blood sugar from not dropping. We worry about
if you're hungry, eat. That's like the rule number one. If you're hungry, eat, but choose a good option.
That's right. So you're not the stock market of blood sugar. And then blood sugar is influenced by not only of what we eat, but are we sleeping? What's our stress management? Are we getting a little bit of movement? And then, stress management plays into coping skills and all of that. And I think we interviewed Carrie Thrall on our podcast, I believe, where we talked about stress management strategies. So there's another podcast you can learn about stress management strategies. So there's a lot of resources, but don't accept food comas. Don't accept being tired after a meal. 3 rules of foods, right? I know you and I, we both talked about this. We should never feel tired after a meal. That means our blood sugar dropped. We spiked it and crashed. Comfort food. We should never gain energy after a meal, because that means it was too low prior to the meal, and it was all too low. And then the third thing is we should never feel bloated ever.
Right. The only thing you should feel after eating is not hungry.
That's so true. I like that. I like the simplicity. So yeah, that's all I think. I think that I can beat up about comfort.
Yeah, I mean, you hit all the big stuff. Literally. I mean, you don't want to overindulge in it. You want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to not become addicted to it, because then you go down the road for further complications like diabetes and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much hammered it out. So if you guys got value out of this podcast and you like this week's information, make sure you hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications. If you'd like to reach out to us, we do have an email associated with the podcast. It is info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. Or you can get on us on our website and get a hold of us. Dr. Glenn's is www.drgharrison.com, and mine is www.northlakeschiropractic.com. So stay tuned, because we're going to keep rolling out new episodes each and every week, and you never know when we might cover something that is super applicable to you.
That's right. Well, Dr. Kolby, don't eat any comfort foods tonight, and tell the dessert lady that you said that, not me. And well, she has the evidence, I guess.
Oh man.
So,
yeah.
And I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, sounds good, buddy.
Bye-bye.